This is something extremely interesting because we today have requested a distinguished leader, Dr. Khadar VALLI, to join us and talk to us about what he believes in maintaining a very healthy society through food. If we have food that is right, then there is no need for medicine. That is going to be the broad topic for this discussion today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Khadar VALLI. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this conversation.
Namaste.
I'm very happy on behalf of everyone at ICFAI and on behalf of all the participants to welcome you, sir. What I will do is I will have a brief introduction and then I'll hand it over to you for your opening remarks. When food is right, medicine is of no need. The opportunities in farming, food processing and retail. This is the topic Dr. Khadar VALLI will be speaking today. He is also known as the Millet Man of India. The agenda is roughly about 30 minutes of talk by the speaker and another 30 minutes by questions and answers, which is moderated by Professor Prasad and myself. I take pleasure in introducing the guest. He literally believes in this statement that when food is wrong, medicine, when the food is right, medicine is of no use. When food is right, medicine is of no need. The right kind of food, simple lifestyle and right agricultural practices. That is the overall ethos in which he's been making these statements. And according to him, that is all the society needs to mend its ways and get itself into top health. Dr. Khadar VALLI is a US returned scientist who has dedicated his life to building a healthy society. He has also transformed himself into a healer through food as medicine, and he resides near Mysore. He proved that millets can cure almost every conceivable disease, including cancer. Moreover, they could prevent cancers too. He is a renowned personality. He is, as I said, known as Millet Man of India, and he is the recipient of Krishi Ratna Award. Dr. Khadar VALLI is considered the best doctor for extremely complicated situations. There are thousands of diabetics with gangrenous legs who consider him a messiah for saving their limbs after they were advised to go for amputation. There are epileptics who have lost all hope, who rush to his residence for seeking solutions to various complicated health problems. Dr. Khadar VALLI makes small changes in food choices and minimal medication. This is at a minimal cost to thousands of patients who flock his place and almost ends up delivering miracles. He treats at least 100 patients a day at his residence from Tuesday to Saturday. Dr. Khadar VALLI studied his MSc from Regional College of Education, Mysuru, and PhD on steroids at IISc, Bangalore. He has worked as a postdoctoral fellow at Environmental Science at Beaverton, Oregon, and also as a scientist in CFTRI for 3 years. He was with DuPont for 5 years, out of which he worked for 4.5 years in the US and in India for a year. And after that, he settled in Mysuru in 1997. Another passion for Dr. Khadar VALLI is to save the soil for future, save the soil for posterity. Dr. Khadar feels it can happen only with the right kind of agricultural practices. He is indeed worried that with the kind of crop practices farmers are currently adopting, the soil may become unfit to grow anything in the next 30 years. Dr. Khadar grows as many as 38 to 40 crop varieties, including positive grains at home, and he uses Kadu Chaitanya Dravana, a microbial liquid for farming in his 8 acres of dry land in Karnataka. He even gives a live demonstration on the right agricultural practices at his farm in the name of Jungle Krishi, which is actually the jungle farming. His daughter, Dr. Sarala, and a homeopathic doctor, and wife, Mrs. Usha, have been partnering Dr. Khadar in this cause. So with this brief introduction, what I request our distinguished speaker, Dr. Khadar VALLI, is to start the talk because it is a huge canvas and the topic is pretty large. And therefore, to explain the concepts, a lot of time is required. I request all the participants to patiently listen to Dr. Khadar VALLI and jot down your questions on the chat box so that we pick them up at an appropriate time and raise those questions during the Q&A session. Joining me is Professor R. Prasad, who is the Director of Academic Wing. He's also the architect of the online MBA program that we have recently launched. Welcome, Professor Prasad. Good evening to you as well. And straight away, now I hand it over to Dr. Khadar. Sir, we are waiting to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind introduction. And that was when I was 62. Now I am 65. So things have changed from then. And we have added actually to our mission, the sustainable living for future generations. So the canvas is much bigger than what you have presented. And just yesterday, I happened to deliver a lecture to the Sustainable Invention Center, which is based in Canada. So many professors, international professors had joined the webinar, and it went on for 3 to 4 hours. So I hope I can do justice in 30-35 minutes. But I just casually introduce the basic background of the whole problems that the human race is facing, health being the main core issue. The present generation, the last, say, 15, 20 years, have been experiencing various kinds of diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, HIV, and these so-called pandemics and endemics. And of course, not to mention about diabetes, BP, rheumatism, arthritis, and CKD, the recent addition, which is very funny disease called chronic kidney diseases, and many mental stress-related mental distortions, rather, I would not use the word distortion, though it is the right word, mentally not functioning at their peak and getting, I'm actually looking for an appropriate word, though distortion is the right word, but
retardation?
Retardation is the peak. Kids who are born with mental disabilities, mental retardation now not being at its peak. You're not really sick mentally, but your mind is stressed and not able to function at its best. And that is the first signs of mental illnesses setting into human race. And of course, the depression, mental illusion, hallucinations, and then going into a phase called depression, which leads to suicidal tendencies. These are all the later parts. But initially, now the whole human race, according to me, has started reducing being healthy mental attitudes to stressed sickness being entering into the system. So this is the stage 80 to 75% of people are in. So not even 1 to 2% are mentally stable and performing at their fullest potential levels. So this is the background. That means whole human race is sick in a different dimensions, everyone being different, and some people having 2-3 diseased conditions added one by one, like diabetes patients are also thyroid patients, diabetes patients are also blood pressure patients, and kidney patients are also diabetic patients, or BP patients are also kidney patients. So all these possible combinations are being thrown at you, rather thrown at the so-called medical doctors. And the present medical system, the allopathic system, has completely failed human race in the last 20 years. And Corona is one of the prime examples, the way they are dealing with the system, because this present allopathic system, because we will start from this context where the vaccinations and unvaccinated, there are no single experiment done till today that there is a group of people who have taken vaccines, there are a group of people who have not taken vaccines and observed for a period of 6 months or 1 year or 6 weeks, and then see the difference and say that vaccine group is better than unvaccinated group, or there is no need for vaccine because there is no difference in vaccinated or unvaccinated people. This is the science of any medical parameters to be followed. This is not done yet, even today. So we are all operating in this present system without any scientific proof and we still continue to vaccinate people all over the world, thinking that it is going to help us. And we are actually creating more mutants. This is the science of virology, and putting the system into more stress. And this alone, this 2 years of pandemic has created many such issues that I have tried to explain 2-3 minutes before. Why are these things happening is the question. Why are we facing these issues? Though we claim we have been very scientific, progressing in all directions, and we have become very progressive, and the digital technology has added, we have understood chemistry, we know biochemistry, we know biology, we know all these subjects very thoroughly well, but still we are creating more and more diseased conditions in the human race. And to add the final nail in the coffin of ill health, we are actually seeing 30 to 40% of women menstruating before the age of 10 all over the world, and which is worse than an atomic bomb falling on your city. And this is something which is obnoxious and cannot be tolerated, but we are not even questioning these issues. We are not even aware of it, many of us. And that is the way system is managed. And hence, we are facing a lot of troubles, and the future generations are not even aware that they can be healthy. And we are all being, I would use the word without mincing, brainwashed, that this is the way it is. In fact, the reality is everyone on this planet Earth, human beings, can be healthy, and there is no need for basically any medicine, because all medicines by definition is when you are sick. So we have not investigated or explored the possibility of human beings being completely healthy, not falling sick. So this is the domain in which I have been trying to work for the last 25 years, because we have not yet defined what food is. We have not yet defined what health is in its true sense. So I have been trying to work in this particular domain, and all the doctors, the healthcare system has been working in trying to combat the diseased condition, defining what is illness, what is kidney problem, what is liver problem, what is liver function test. All these minute details we have been working out, and in fact seem to be very, very expertise in these issues, but not able to contain or heal one sick person completely, because all are being managed using medicine. So medicines mean there is sickness. Health means there is no need for medicine. So these two are different dimensions and different concepts. So we have to now separate these two issues. So if you don't fall sick at all, can we imagine that situation? Can we see that with our clear focus? And that's what I've been trying to understand. So what is the way? I had an opportunity to think of this when I first met a small girl back in 1987, and I went to visited the USA first time. 6-year-old girl started menstruating. Then I asked the doctor. Doctor said, this is common here. This girl is little early, though many of the girls are menstruating at the age of 8 or 9. And I asked why? Why did they do that? Why are they not menstruating at the age of 14 or 15, which is the natural age for thousands of years for human race? They didn't have an answer. The answer was simple. I actually did my PhD on steroids. That means steroids are the compounds that control many of the biological reactions in our body, human body. And also sex hormones are steroids. So I was very clear about that we are actually making a hormonal imbalance in human body, and something that is causing. So within 2-3 days, I figured out the milk that they were producing using steroids, injections, and the genetically modified cows called Jersey cow or HF cow. In fact, cows do not exist anywhere. They all are actually exported from India, but they have modified with genetic modifications and made a cow to give 20 liters, 30 liters of milk to suit the business industry, the milk dairy industry. And the fact scientifically is that human body cannot digest milk, mother's milk itself, once 2 or 3 years age, because genetically we are switching off the milk digesting enzymes in our body. As simple as that. That means human body is not supposed to take any animal protein after 2 to 3 years. That too, mother's milk alone is permitted. This is the science of our physiology. Simple fact. There are no two things about it. So we are now here stealing the milk of a cow, which is supposed to be taken by the calf. On top of it, we are introducing a lot of these steroid residues, antibiotic residues, and feeding our babies in the name of creating social well-being for the women. The women in America stopped lactating all together, because they were not interested in feeding babies. Of course, this concept has spread all over the world. The mothers are supposed to give milk to their babies till the age of 2 or 2.5 years. But culturally, the whole system started falling apart, including India. Now we are facing the same problem. In the last 15 years in India also, girls are menstruating below 10 years. And some girls even at the age of 3 or 4. So this is the background. It's such a big thing for me. Then I started telling them, so if you don't drink milk, this problem should not come. So I did this experiment, taken 10 girls, gave them coconut milk, and other people are already drinking all of the milk. So the 10 girls who took coconut milk for a period of 3-4 years, and then did not take any milk at all, menstruated at the age of 14-15. So this is after I came back from America 1997, I did this. So I was so clear that it is the food. In the name of food, they have been making millions and millions liters of milk all over the world. This technology of GMO food, milk, is being practiced because it suits the business, and everyone, including the science books, have written milk is good, complete food, gives you calcium, it gives you this, it gives you that. And such scientific myths have been spread by this business community. I call it factory food. Then we are falling sick. In fact, the whole human race. For men, the sperm count has started coming down. Many men have lost their hair. They became bald at a very early age, which we are supposed to become bald 60 or after 55 years of age. 20 years, 25 years, kids, young boys have become bald head. So all these hormonal imbalances started taking place in human race, and no one cared. At the same time, we also introduced unnatural foods like paddy rice, wheat. These are also actually genetically modified or hybrid varieties because it suited the fertilizer industry, pesticide industry. So pesticides and fertilizers started becoming the way we grew our food, that is paddy rice, wheat, and sugarcane. And the whole market of food industry became completely centralized all over the world. These fertilizer companies, there are in fact only 5 or 6 of them controlling the whole world. So we started all over the world, people started eating. Over a period of 30-40 years, this transformation took place, and everyone on this planet have to eat rice and wheat and sugarcane. I mean the sugar produced from sugarcane. And on top of it, the second layer, they started using the excess food that they thought they're producing excessively, and started feeding cows and pigs and other animals, and started making meat. And in the down the line, the last 20-30 years, the herbicides became fashion. Glyphosate, that kind of herbicides started introducing into soybean, which is another GMO, and then corn, another GMO. So the mix of these two materials started producing the animal feeds all over the world. And then we started making meat with all these residues of all these chemicals, and people started consuming, and including cancer started appearing when these kinds of food entered into the human system. So step by step, because I have already spent 10 minutes or 12 minutes. So I have to start giving you the clues. So this is the way we've made our food in the last 50 to 70 years. And these are the reasons, because this started creating glucose imbalance. The rice and wheat and sugar have no control to release glucose into our blood. So when you eat 100 grams of rice, that is maybe idli or palav or whatever you want to make, all the dishes made out of rice flour or rice, releases glucose into your blood in a flood-like manner. So if you eat 100 grams, you are getting into your blood minimum of 50 grams of glucose. And how much should be there for a healthy body? Medical fact is not more than 5 to 6 grams in your 5 to 6 liters of blood that you have at any given point of time. So you have created glucose imbalance. And we have started pumping in steroids. We have started pumping in antibiotics in the form of residues through milk, through sugar, through rice, through wheat. And wheat has another associated problem. Apart from pumping the glucose very fast into your blood, it has got a protein called gluten, which actually sticks to your colon and large intestine and many epithelial cells that can absorb the food, nutrients, and blood, passing on into the nutrients into the blood. So all these wonderful activities of digestive tract are being slowly and steadily, because you started eating wheat, developing the problems. And this is called actually gluten allergy for human race. For some people, it is very severe. For some people, moderately mild. But all said and done, we are creating imbalance in the absorption and distribution of the nutrients, because these chemicals, these things that have started accumulating in our gut, started killing these symbiotic microbes in our body. In fact, we are made of, you say, if you are made of billion cells, trillion cells are there in your body as microbes. Well-to-do symbiotic microbial populations have been slowly getting out of your body, because the food that we are eating, especially in the last 20 years, processed foods with a lot of preservatives and antibiotics and chemicals, started eliminating good microbes from your body. So we have now created, just because of these wrong choices of food, microbial imbalance, hormonal imbalance, glucose imbalance. So now these three, if we can correct by right food practices, right food, we can eliminate all the diseases from the human race. So this is the best I can do to put in a short and crisp manner. So what are all these food materials causing the damages to our health, whether it is brain problem, liver problem, blood problem, gynecological problems, whatever, all these systems are getting disturbed because of these three issues. Glucose imbalance, the more glucose you have in your blood, our endocrine glands have to overwork, emergency conditions, creating extra cholesterol, extra triglycerides, extra aromatic factors, uric acid, all these compounds that are supposed to be in a balanced way in your blood have started increasing, because the glucose is in high quantity. Instead of 5 to 6 grams, we are creating at any given point of time 50 to 60 grams. So all this 50 to 60 grams extra glucose is converted to glycogen, fat, meat, and people started becoming obese. Then the extra glucose started sitting onto the hemoglobin itself. So that is called glycosylated hemoglobin, which is supposed to be 6 or 7, started increasing in many of the individuals, became 8, 9, 10, and then you are diabetic. And then the glycogen, the cholesterol, the triglycerides, this fat material started accumulating in the blood vessels around heart. You started having heart blockages. Then the pressure increased. BP patients started getting created. Because there is higher pressure, the kidney started in its filtering system disturbances and stopped functioning slowly and steadily over a period of 4 or 5 years. And in correcting these imbalances, doctors started using more and more chemicals, which started putting more pressure on kidneys. And then they figured out, because you have to sell soya bean and making the meat businesses said protein is good for you, and people started eating more and more protein consumption, which is actually very dangerous for your kidney. Kidney started malfunctioning, and you started creating more and more CKD patients, chronic kidney disease. So it is the choices of food which suited the fertilizer industry, food corporate culture. Doctors and medical systems never speak about why we are getting diseases. Instead, they are trying to manage after it is created by pumping more and chemicals, more invasive techniques, more diagnostic techniques, and hence slowly and steadily the allopathic medical system started ballooning in terms of agents, medical agents. I mean, not the people who sell the drugs. I'm talking about medical interventions, tablets, injections, supplements. All this started becoming industry. So economics took over the real science in the last 30, 40 years. But then the science magazines and all these things are controlled by these people. Hence, anything beyond this box is not considered science. In the first place, a human being taking milk is the most unscientific thing that you can do. And we have got zillions of examples that it is actually creating autoimmune diseases. Now people are slowly recognizing that this is the problem. And autoimmune diseases are much more dangerous because your antibodies that you are developing are trying to attack your own system, thinking that it is a foreign body. Because of the animal protein entering indiscriminately and the steroids entering your body, we are disturbing the immune system also. So that's how even a small thing like corona, which is very actually not a real pathogenic system, has created havoc in human race, because we have started losing immunity almost very drastically. That's because of the food that we are eating. So instead of pointing the finger at the right cause, we are actually drawing lines elsewhere in the periphery. And that is the system for you as of now. So how do we correct it? How do we correct it? So if you take food that releases glucose slowly and steadily into your body, into your bloodstream, then within 6 to 8 months, you can correct all the imbalances that are created by glucose being not in the right amounts. So that means when you eat something that should release glucose in small quantities, it's called aliquots or quantums, small quantums. So small amounts of glucose. In fact, after it, many doctors have recognized this, but then they started telling eat less, eat more number of times. But that's not the right way to do. You have to eat something that can keep you engaged for 8 to 10 hours, because from mouth to anus, the food travels and the digestive tract needs that 7 to 8 hours. If you keep pouring the raw material every 2 to 3 hours, your digestive system, which has started 2 hours ago, gets confused, and then you are in more trouble. So this is the problem with the present day doctors saying every 2 hours you eat in small quantities. No, whether you eat small or more, it has to get that 6 to 7 hours of digestive time. And so you keep putting every 2 hours in between, you're screwing up the whole processes. So this is the problem with this kind of adjustments. And that's is not true. So we need to feed our mouths with food that releases glucose slowly and steadily. For that to do, God has made arrangements. And thousands of years, human race has eaten these grains that have been totally eliminated by this factory food people. What I mean by corporate culture, centralizing the systems, because locally various kinds of millets have been grown all over the world. And I started looking at these various grains and picked up these 5 grains called Kodo millet, little millet, barnyard millet, brown top millet, and foxtail millet. These 5 millets have got fiber incorporated along with the carbohydrate. That's what actually makes the difference. So 8% of it is present in foxtail millet, 10% in barnyard millet, 9.8% in little millet, 9% in Kodo millet, and brown top millet has got 12.5%. And approximately 60 to 70% of carbohydrate is available in every grain. And our rice, paddy rice, we have 79% of carbohydrate, 0.2 grams of fiber. And wheat, 1.2 grams of fiber and 70% of carbohydrate. So approximately all this. And I will be very happy and glad I will be sending all the information which is actually available in Google for free download in form of PDFs and books in almost 6 to 8 languages of India: English, Hindi, Punjabi, Gujarati, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada. All these languages are available, and I will be sending to our coordinator as soon as the program is over, all the books that are relevant in English. And then you can, if you want other languages, you can download. So when you see all this information, the scientific information of these grains is actually tabulated for your kind consideration and educating yourself. So when you divide the carbohydrate by the fiber in each grain, if it is single digit, that is the characteristic of a grain which releases glucose slowly and steadily into your bloodstream. So we also did a very intelligent and diligent experiment. We feed these 12 grains to a diabetic patient who has no control over glucose in his body, and it is getting over the red blood cells, HB, and we call it HbA1c. So if HbA1c is 8 or 9, his renal tolerance, that is the glucose reaching the blood and then the kidneys and getting into urine, happens within 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So if you feed a diabetic patient whose HbA1c is 8 or 9, 100 grams of porridge of various grains, and if you collect the urine after 1.5 hours, and if you see glucose, that means the grain you have fed is not having any control over release of glucose. And if you see the urine having the glucose after 3 or 4 hours, that means it is releasing the glucose slowly and steadily into his bloodstream. So this is a simple experiment which you can do, or anyone can do anywhere on any of these places in the planet. So you take 10 to 15 diabetic patients whose HbA1c is 8 or 9 and feed this porridge. One day, 100 ml of foxtail millet porridge. Next day, the same way you make barnyard millet. All 12 millets, and collect and see the test. And we have found rice and wheat release very fast. And finger millet, corn, great millet, that is jowar, and pearl millet release in between. Say after 1 hour, within 15-20 minutes, you start seeing the urine glucose. Whereas these 5 grains which we have been considering, and we named it positive millets, and we call in our southern Indian language Siridhanya, because it gives you health. I will let you know, after feeding this grain 2 to 3 months or 6 months, even people who are taking insulin, 15 units in the morning, 15 units in the evening, 15 units in the night, and some people taking again 1 more dose, not able to control the glucose levels, HbA1c 9, 10. Within 6 months, most of the 95% of people started seeing the decrease in HbA1c and their health levels. They were not able to walk before freely. Now they're able to walk 10 kilometers without any problems. And people who are supposed to get their legs amputated because the high glucose levels started disturbing the bone marrow, and the infection started taking place. So all these kinds of complicated problems created by these high diabetic conditions in human body were started getting reversed once the patient started eating these grains. So we did this wonderful things, and thousands of people started getting better. So I got excited and put everything in form of PDFs. And we started actually treating many various kinds of diseases. In fact, we have now listed almost 108 kinds of conditions that human race is facing. And we have seen wonderful results. After seeing the results, we have tabulated what to eat, how to eat, what not to eat. All these things we did in a wonderful fashion. So I have, I think, another 5 minutes, I will conclude. And we did experiments on cancer patients, HIV patients. In fact, some of the genetically given conditions, progressive diseases like muscular dystrophy, scleroderma, lupus, all these kinds of conditions we started giving to patients, and many of them started feeling much better in a matter of 6 months to 1 year. And some cases like mental illnesses and kidney problems, because the neurons and nephrons take more time to get replenished in our body. What it means is your red blood cells are getting displaced or made newly in every 3 months, or skin cells very fast, and your nails like that. You have, for each and every organ, we have certain specific period of time in our body to replenish. Neurons, and neurons means connected to nerve system, and nephrons means connected to kidney system, takes 7 years. So it takes a little more time if your disease is placed in these particular organs. All said and done, we are seeing a lot of wellness being imparted. So we figured out then the diseased conditions are being reversed. That means if we eat or feed the kids only these food, they should not fall sick at all, because microbial balance is created because when you eat the porridge, fermented porridge, all the guts microbes are getting back. In 6 weeks, we are finding the immunity levels increased. The kids who are falling sick, coughing, as fever and cold, never got cold, fever, cough in 6 to 8, 10 years like that. So all these wonderful experiments we did in the last 25 years, and we figured out this is a wonderful thing. So if you change your food, there is no need for medicine. And if you continue to eat the wrong food, no medicine is working. As simple as that. So this is the first statement our lecture started. Now you understand how we managed to do, and this is a huge topic. And in fact, there are associated sustainability, agricultural practices, how to produce this food. All these things have to be actually informed to you people, but it will take a long time. So I am actually done with my half-an-hour period that stipulated. Actually, we can open the session for question and answers.
Great, sir. Great. Thank you very much for this opening remarks. In fact, I totally now agree that this canvas is pretty large and it requires a huge amount of time. And I'm sure we will try and seek those answers from you and your explanation on various topics through the questions and answers session that we have scheduled. I'm sure we are going to overshoot the time, sir. I request you to kindly take as much time as you want now while answering these questions, because some of the participants who have shared their questions with us at the time of registration, those questions are quite deep and they are extremely interested in understanding and finding some solution. So the purpose of requesting you to be on the platform, on the conversation, is to help some of these interested people, and therefore even if it takes a little more time, it's okay. So I think that solution should be provided to them, so through you. That is our objective. Broadly, you have actually questioned the first thing, the allopathy and its efficacy, the unscientific practices, the vaccines during the pandemic which are not fully tested, and the food choices that the humans are made to make, in the sense compelled to make, leading
forced to
yes, forced to make, are leading to a variety of problems like glucose imbalance, microbial imbalance, and hormonal imbalance. In short, there are many other things very beautifully explained by you. But that picture tells us what kind of difficult situation that we are currently in. That is, almost everyone is sick. I mean,
Yes.
one may hesitate saying this thing. Maybe from my side, I would hesitate saying this thing. But you, as a scientist and as a doctor who has worked on these aspects, I'm sure you are an authority to speak on this. And you said that, and it is quite stark, that almost the entire human race is sick. And therefore, it's an alarm. And I think it's high time we corrected by choosing the right kind of food. That is the millets, all the millets that you have listed out, one can choose from, and each of them have been identified for a specific benefit, and all these benefits are going to help the human body maintain its top health conditions if it is pursued very carefully as advised. So wonderful session and wonderful opening remarks, and the beauty of the session begins actually now. The questions are even more interesting and deep, and I'm sure Khadar sir is going to answer. I will now request Professor R. Prasad to join and start the Q&A session. It is like this, there will be 4 clusters of questions. It will be alternated between myself and Professor Prasad. So Professor Prasad will start the first cluster. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. So that was an excellent introduction. I think, in a single statement, you have given us a basic lesson in food, and from food to digestion, and from digestion to biology, and from biology to disease. I think the stage has been set. A lot of people have questions about, the topic is fundamentally very different from what we hear. As Professor Sudhakar Rao said, it is stark, and what you said is also shocking, in the sense that, a lot of things that we did not know in our education in school, where we learn the biology that most of us learn, those of us who get into the physical sciences. I think you have given us a fairly good idea in a very short span of time, the very fundamentals of what it is. So, sir, we build up the first question with this. This calls for a completely new paradigm, not even perspective. It is a completely new paradigm. And therefore, there is tremendous amount of change involved. So before we get into that, the first question, sir, is what are the fundamental changes needed? You did explain about food as millets, but what other fundamental changes are needed in order to look at your mission, which is basically about healthy and sustainable society? What other fundamental changes are needed?
Most important thing, actually, even more pressing than our health, the planet is in danger because of our food choices. So fundamentally, the canvas is becoming bigger, because by producing rice, wheat, sugarcane, and meat, the way we are producing in a centralized fashion, we are creating imbalance in the planetary condition, and global warming is actually taking us to a disastrous place. So it's much more important that we change our food just for that single reason. So even for that particular parameter of stopping the global warming, the millets cultivation practices are so simple and so much involved with nature that it hardly consumes any natural resources, because these are genetically designed by God to have the least amount of resources from nature. So by we all adapting the millets as the staple food, we are going to release the tension and stress created on the soil, and the loss of soil is utmost important to be addressed. And how do we regenerate soil? Just the way we regenerated our health. In fact, this staple food and agricultural practices we change, we can regenerate the lost soil in a matter of 3 to 4 years. And these experiments also we have done and successfully managed to demonstrate to large number of farmers and many farmers are adopting this. And Karnataka is now actually is #1 in the world in growing millets, which otherwise would have been lost in the last 25 years, as we have lost many grains all over the planet. In fact, these wonderful grains exist only in India. Most of the planet, other countries have lost, clueless. They are clueless about this. And in fact, the historical references like the Last Supper, Christ ate, was actually done by foxtail millet, the unleavened bread. And the pyramids show us the residues or the remnants or the particular millets. So the choice of rice and wheat suited the corporate companies because they want to use huge amounts of fertilizers and all that. So these are the complications, and we are losing the sustainability of producing food. If the temperature increases 2 more degrees, we are not able to go produce rice or wheat. Then we will be in real distress condition. And that is another danger waiting when these wars and food supply chains, because they are centralized, the problems are going to increase. So we are entering into a very difficult conditions and time zones, which we can mitigate by making these millets grow everywhere. They, in fact, even grow in Dubai, I mean, in sandy conditions with little cocopeat and 5 to 6 wettings of the land, you can grow the millets. So each and every part on this planet grow their food there itself, and then they can be happily eating. And that is the way we have seen. And even the very difficult conditions like 45 degrees also, these grains can grow. Even at 10 degrees, they can grow. So the range in which they can grow, geological and temperate zones and subtropical, all these places we can grow. Whereas the food that we are now talking, rice, wheat, and sugarcane, can only be grown in a very specific, highly controlled conditions, which is actually a wrong choice scientifically for human race, because the human population is going to balloon. In next 10-15 years, we are going to be reaching 10 billions or so. So where is the food that you can generate? Even for that, we have answer in millet growing and consuming. So these futuristic dangers can also be mitigated if the human race now systematically, with a policy and planned way, start choosing the millets as their staple food. We can start eliminating the sickness, eliminate the disease, eliminate the soil distress and future food problems. So this is the canvas that I'm actually looking at, working at.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think, you've given us at least 3 more very fundamental directions of change with respect to water, with respect to soil, with respect to temperature.
Yes.
And I think you've also given us the case of the Middle East, and we think we have some participants from the Middle East who also seem to be following you, where you can grow, what you did at, what you're talking about at very high temperatures. So it also looks like the fundamental dynamics of agriculture will then change from where wealth is produced, where there's a lot of water and certain kind of climate. So the next question is about, now we come from the science to the behavior.
Yes.
So the next question is about, the global brand Kellogg's failed to change eating habits in India. But you seem to have had some success there, because you mentioned the example of Karnataka now producing large amount of millet in the world. So there has been some change there, and you've also influenced many of us who are, in this particular group.
Yes.
So how did you do this, and what is the conviction behind it? How do you go about influencing people, their eating and drinking habits? Because there are a lot of emotion connected with this beyond the science. I mean, the taste, the emotion, a lot of hard-grained neurology, the way the brain functions, that I like this. So, I feel like, I should have that kind of thing. So how did you tackle this, sir?
No, I never tried to tackle anything. I have been at it very consistently and persistently reaching out to all people, all sundry. I mean, in fact, just last Sunday, we went to, in Andhra Pradesh, hardcore rice growing farmers, Miryalaguda, and have rice mills all over. So we went to these farmers, 150 of them. We took and spent 4 hours discussing all the parameters and issues. And at the end of the discussion, out of 150, 10 farmers said they are going to switch to millets. Not only eating, they are going to grow millets. So according to me, it is the awareness and it is the knowledge sharing that brings about the change. So for the last 25 years, I have been at it, going to village. In fact, in Karnataka, I have visited more than 2,000 villages. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday has been set aside by me in a week to visit as many number of places and meet as many number of people. So fundamentally, people have to get the knowledge and the awareness. Only that can change. So policies top to bottom does not work. That works only in the corporate world. But then if you have to bring the fundamental changes, because it is not about science, it is about their habits and conditioning. So to change the conditioning and habits, there is no other tool in the world for human beings. Only the tool is being aware and having the knowledge. So, and there is no other choice other than conveying the knowledge and the awareness to the people, which I have been at it sincerely for the last 25 years. And we have managed, and in fact, we have got a 8-acre land where I have created jungle. And then we started the practices of right agricultural practices, which does not disturb any part of the nature. Instead, it replenishes the nature. So we have communicated, conducted practical demonstrations classes every Sunday for more than 8 to 10 years. So a lot of farmers have got this awareness and they are forming the base of this platform to grow millets. And in the last 20-30 years, the awareness has increased. And on the same breath, I should say, a lot of people are becoming, rather feeling healed by changing this food and eating ambali and not drinking coffee, tea. They're finding that imbalances are being corrected, microbial imbalance, which is corrected by taking ambali every day, 1 tumbler, and then right practices of getting up in the morning and watching the sun, getting vitamin D, which is very, very important. And our ancestors said Surya Namaskar. So I've been trying to communicate the science behind of many of our practices, and people are slowly getting connected and then talking about it. And of course, I should give credit to the social media, which caught up somewhere around 2016 or 2017 or so. And I think that has given a boost for the information exchange. And people now, actually in the time of Corona, I sat in my, thousands of people started watching. And so all these things started falling in place. I mean, you asked me, how did you do that? So all these parameters have started. And then most important thing is that people becoming all right, including complicated diseases started falling in place. In fact, just the day before yesterday, the Sunday, I went to Vanasthalipuram in Hyderabad. One person came from Karimnagar. He was diabetic. He lost his eyes. He became blind by taking insulin and all that. And he has given up because there is no way they could regenerate his eyesight. And after 2 years of being blind, someone gave him the protocols that I'm going to share with you. I think many people have already got it. So he followed that strictly for 3 months, and lo and behold, he started not hitting the walls, and he became quite confident to walk around in his house. And another 3 months, he could actually venture out. And now it's been 9 months, he started traveling, and he got excited so much that when he heard I'm visiting Vanasthalipuram just last Sunday, he came to the platform and said, "Sir, I have to speak to people." He grabbed the mic and then he talked more than 15 minutes saying what he did. And he's now on his own and not able to be bogged down by this. And he left insulin, he left everything, and he's eating, following the protocol and experiencing, he says, it is my new life. I mean, these kind of cases, many are there. So when we correct these three imbalances, I believe we can be healthy. And that's why I keep telling, if your food is right, no medicine is required. And he actually threw three of all the medicines that he has taken for 15, 20 years. So these are the kinds of incidents that make me much more conviction, because this is the science, put it into practice, and we are through all these disturbances. So instead of working on illnesses, work to build up health in your system, and you will have no problems. And we have seen hundreds and thousands of kids experiencing no sickness at all following this system.
Awesome, sir. I think, you have given us a classic lesson in what I call social marketing. You've given us 3 steps, if I have understood it. First is awareness. No, we call it a funnel. So
Yes.
finally, to get adoption, you need to start with awareness. And you have built awareness not only on consumers, but you've also built awareness with farmers to take
Yes.
care of the supply
Soil.
side. Yes.
Soil is very important. Sir, that are the 2 reasons why I came back from America. 1, degradation of soil, and 2, the kids, the future generations' health. See, present sicknesses can be cured, or some of them might pass away. We are all old, after 60, 65, whether you are sick or healthy, you will pass away. But then the future generations need to live 40, 50 years without being bothered by these sicknesses. So if I can, before I pass away, I want to pass on the information. And that's why I keep telling, knowledge is to share, not to patent. And sadly, we have now very bad culture. Even if you have a small idea, you make a product and please buy it. It's like patent. This patent culture we have been inheriting from this Western standards, which is the most dangerous thing that can happen, because that centralizes, capitalizes the knowledge and the intellectual rights and all these bogus things. According to me, this is bogus. And the academicians have also been taken for a ride, saying that, oh, if you have some idea, you have to patent. That is the worst thing that you can do. Knowledge. That's why I keep mentioning this sentence everywhere. If knowledge is for not to share, then the brain is useless. Brain is useless.
Excellent, sir. I think you've brought another element into the same question, which is about socializing versus capitalizing.
Yes.
And I think you brought it in. And I think, to build on the original question, one was about awareness building, and you also brought in your purpose of doing this, which is also excellent, I think, which is also needed to do the social marketing agenda that one has. And the second that I could understand is that from the consumer side, people have begun understanding. And I think the world has changed, and there are a lot of people who are becoming health conscious. And you also mentioned social media, the use of technology there, as also the kind of seminars and webinars that you do. And a third thing that I found essential is that there is success in curing diseases, and you have demonstrated success. So while the whole thing is very slow and takes time because it's societal change, I think these early successes combined with the other activities that you're doing are behind the building up of this entire, what you call as the mission. And I think there's a huge lesson for all of us in that. Thank you, sir. Thank you immensely for that. I come to the next question. And this is a little more what I would call a specific question. You have suggested about certain types of foods that we should take on the millet side, but then you also have, vegetables and fruits.
Yes.
So if you take, say, for example, I'm putting 3 diseases here on the table because the questions on that. One is diabetes, another is asthma, which I've taken, and the third is digestion. Yes. So if you take these 3, and if you take the box of the millets and anything else that you need to take, can you enlighten us on how it actually works with respect to millets? You did explain to some extent as to what actually takes place, but if you take the other things as well, how does it work in the case of these specific diseases, asthma, heart disease, diabetes, etc., sir?
Yeah, basically it is the glucose imbalance which creates the materials that are causing these diseases. When your blood is thickened due to cholesterol or triglycerides or rheumatic factor or glycogen or fat materials, the thin valvuli that is present in your lungs, where there is exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, the blood vessels become so thin that it is very, very, very minute. It's in the angstrom levels. So if the blood is not thin and flowing properly, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide doesn't take place. So when you have glucose imbalance, the blood is thick, associated with extra glucose, extra fat, extra cholesterol and all. So the lungs start feeling the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen becoming inefficient. And that's how you start getting the problem of asthma. So when you start making your blood thin, and that's what these doctors are doing, they're trying to give blood thinners, steroids to make this process, the breathing, easy. So that we can do by actually choosing foxtail millet and brown top millet, which have actually the capacity to clean up the deposits that are present in your lung blood vessels, which are very, 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 very minute and thin. So, and that's how actually I will add one more disease, the loss of eyesight, which is further more micro. So when we can clean the blood and make it thin and be free of all these toxic morbid wastes that are flowing, you achieve success. You make the patient feel better. In fact, it's a matter of 3 to 4 weeks, these things start happening. And associated with that, there are some particular vegetables and green leaf decoctions which can hasten the process, So we have done these experiments and then tabulated all the conditions in the form of a protocol. For asthma, there is a protocol. For blood pressure and heart conditions, where most of the heart and vessels and the veins and the arteries that are associated near and around heart can be actually thoroughly cleaned up. Even 95% heart block, which requires open heart surgery, is also can be met when you actually take ash gourd juice, cucumber juice, or Loki, that is called bottle gourd, or any cucurbitaceae family vegetable juices, raw juices, early in the morning in empty stomach. In a matter of 3 to 9 weeks, you start seeing the relief. And then over a period of 6 months, you're completely healed and you don't need any medication at all after that. So we advise patients to keep slowly and steadily reducing the medication they are in, whether it is allopathic or Ayurvedic or homeopathic, it hardly matters. What matters is with allopathic medicines, you start having side effects. With homeopathy and Ayurveda, if managed well, you will have no side effects, but you keep requiring medicines because you have not changed the basic food. You keep eating rice, wheat, and sugar. You keep producing the diseased conditions because always your glucose imbalance is present. So we are attempting and allowing the patient with this awareness to clear the cause as well as maintain doses. And once the cause is cleared, you yourself will feel that there is no need for medicine, and slowly and steadily over a period of 6 months to 1 year, you can get out of the medications. And so this is how we do systematically, and we have found enormous success.
Tremendous, sir. I think, you have also responded to a number of questions which have come up. One is about government policy, which you have responded in your earlier question. And I think number of foods and specific foods that people are talking about, I think you mentioned that there are protocols for each and that you're going to share this, and that I think therefore all the audience members can take a look at that. Excellent, sir. I think you have also brought on center stage the point about cure versus care.
Yes.
And I think once you're out of this cure business, and whether even if it is homeopathy or Ayurveda, if you don't deal with the fundamental aspect of the daily intake of food that you take.
Yeah, being healthy or not healthy. So are you in this domain? Are you in this domain? So unless you address fundamental root cause, you cannot come to healing. You can keep taking care of things, but you are not healing the people. So we want people not to leave this caring system. Slowly and steadily you can come out if you start addressing the healing system. So, and herein comes, I have not answered your question of vegetables and fruits. And vegetables and fruits are actually watery substances, because they are fresh. You cannot dry them, cannot dry all vegetables and then eat it. It's not possible. So when you have food in form of watery vegetables and fruits, the amount to consume to required nutritional value is very high. So that means you say, I want to eat only fruits and live. You should be consuming the minimum of 3 to 5 kilos of fruits on a daily basis, minimum. And depending upon the work, physical work you do. So the nutritional aspects cannot be completely met. They can work for a diseased condition as a dietary condition. So if you have some sicknesses, you just be on fruits for some time, you will start seeing good result. But then they are not sustainable. They are not sustainable. So for sustainable, healthy living, you need to consume millets because they encompass all these nutritional values and the hunger issue and the production, sustainable living for the huge amount of populations that are to come or that are already there. And you cannot produce all fruits for all the people. It's humongous task. And vegetables and greens are much more difficult to fulfill all the needs of the human race. So they are actually supplementary things, but vegetables and fruits have a wonderful added advantage of filling your microbes in your tummy. So that is one advantage, but that can be corrected or offset by our ambali, that is fermented porridge, can do the job much easily without much problems. So I am for people to take various vegetables and fruits that are locally available, okay, but not grown on chemicals. Because when you eat fruits grown on chemicals, grapes or oranges, you are going to get more sick than the health benefits. I hope I have answered all the 3 points.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think it has been fairly comprehensive, and we are going slow on the questions, and we are giving all the questions because I think these are very, very fundamental points and need to be understood. They are not high-level abstracted concepts, and I think you're putting it across very well. Sir, that also, just as a point which came to my mind, there was a lot of discussion about Shane Warne and his liquid diet. He passed away. He was an athlete, and there were a lot of questions raised, and you seem to be, from what you said, there seems to be some.
I have all that in my back of my mind when I'm answering.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I move to the last question in this cluster, sir. You have done a lot of experiments. How much of it has been published or attempted to be published so that it gets into the regular science and at least starts moving up from 0.05 to 1% to 2% over a period of time? Even that angle gets tackled.
That's not going to happen, sir, because we are questioning the whole you're putting me in a very difficult position. You see, the parameters that are running the world are economic considerations, and we are trying to release that from economic condition to ecological conditions, and life being focus of our way of dealing things, and commerce being not the important thing. So the scientific establishment is presently in the hands of these people. So when actually they have declared diabetes as incurable, am I right? So when I say no, it is curable, it's it's not going to be published. It's as simple as that. But I have published. I have published protocols. I have, lot of thousands of people are what is after all a publication? What is after all a publication? I write a paper, give a data, and few peer group people say yes, and they publish, and that becomes science. So that way, I believe I have done the job, and maybe it will take more time. And so when Columbus said, no, Earth is not flat, no one, it takes time. It takes time. I believe another 20, 30 years at least for this to become a mainstream thought. It takes time, and change does require time, and we need to be patient. So.
Thank you, sir. I think, you've highlighted a very, very critical point. And I think we need to keep this at the back of our mind, and which is also the reason for asking the question, because some of us are coming from educational institutions which do emphasize publications. And you're also pointing out when the new paradigm comes, something completely new comes, what sort of dynamics are at work. Thank you very much, sir.
We have lots of examples, Copernicus, Columbus, Galileo, a lot of examples, and it takes time.
Thank you, sir. Back to Professor Sudhakar.
Thank you very much, sir. I think I have waited for my turn for quite some time. As you advised, we need to have some patience. So do I advise the audience to have patience. Their turn will come now. Their questions will be addressed. Today, we are going to have these exhaustive sessions. I have told myself, and I've requested the guest also to answer all the questions.
Another 15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And what I propose is that we can have another session in a matter of a month or so.
Yes, we will. We will have another 15 minutes is good enough. What I will do is, one question that is coming is, can we survive only on millets if required?
Yeah, to some degree, up to 40, 50 days. If you're just having millets alone, yes, you can. But you need supplements like greens, vegetables, now and then, certainly.
Okay, just in case there is no access to millets in the food we eat, how can we make do with their nutritional equivalent in other foods?
There are no equivalents in other foods. Absolutely, this is a must. These 5 millets, there may be many more millets which we have to discover. There are many millets that can fit these characteristics, that the fiber to carbohydrate ratio being single digit. I'm sure if given another 5 to 10 years, I can myself find another 5 to 10 millets. But this, because I did not have enough time, we have to start changing the course of human race. I have to dent into the consciousness of people. So, it's a huge task to establish one grain as having all these qualities. So experiments are required. So I have taken 8 years before I spoke single word, from 1997 to 2005. So it required, and I couldn't wait, because already we are at loss. We are already late by 30, 40 years, according to me, in my calculations. So,
right.
Yeah, we have to have these millets, because malnutrition is still a problem in the half of the globe. In fact, very rich countries have malnutrition because they're eating wrong foods. It's not that Africa has malnutrition. America has got malnutrition. Germany has got malnutrition. England has got malnutrition. Of course, India has got malnutrition because we are eating wrong foods. That's as simple as that. So millets are the foods that can completely wipe out malnutrition from this planet.
Okay, sir, that's fantastic. Now, what I will do is I will ask the questions that have been raised just now by various respondents, participants on the chat box. Just before that, one thing that occurs to me as we are talking is that you have given lessons from variety of constructs like science, basic human biology, physiology, even from religion, there are examples, and from history, even from history, that the millets have been there around for 4,000 years, and very recently only the addiction to rice, wheat, sugarcane, so on and so forth, the destructive, so to say, kind of foods that have come into our culture. Food is a culture. It has come into
Actually, I just like to comment. The word you used, addiction, is basically planned in boardrooms and made it happen. It's exactly what they planned, and it is addiction. Is the addiction. Addiction is the right word. I'm glad you put it there.
Thank you, sir. So the question, sir, is, if it was always there, even Jesus Christ in his Last Supper has tasted foxtail millet, eaten foxtail millet, and there's an evidence for that. How these people, the theory or the conspiracy theory or the conspiracies, how did they bring about this change from millets to rice, wheat, and sugarcane, sir? I wanted to understand from historic perspective.
Yeah, actually, that was very simple for them. It all happened because the so-called science and technology helped them, and they were the drivers of this engine. So, and commerce. And for all this to happen in a short period of 100 years is actually flamed by the greed of humans. So we are all party to the commissions that these big fellows are throwing at us. So the corporate companies established and then started sharing small profits, and the world was not this prosperous. The money was not there. We are creating money because exploiting the nature. At the end of the day, we exploit nature and are converting into money. That is, being it mining, be it big dams and then collecting water in one place, centralizing the stuff, and everything is in the hands of these big corporates. So when you build a dam, the politicians are all party to it. All these big corporates which are building and making money are actually partaking or giving some commission to these big people. And so the greed of winning elections come into picture. So all over the world, people are all turned into these small puppets in these big hands. So it's not actually conspiracy theory. It is the greed of the people. In fact, when you use the word conspiracy and all, we are trying to criminalize the stuff. But I don't see it that way. It is the way human beings, it is the way systems develop, which is crores of examples are there in each and every part of the world. Like in our country, knowledge has been contaminating or making people greedy because they can make it into a power thing. So not only in India, you go to China, you go anywhere. So knowledge, if not shared, becomes a powerful tool to control. So to control is the nature of human, to control things. So it is the greed and control. So I'm not trying to criminalize it. I'm trying to see it as a natural thing that happens. But then it's at the same level, the sattvic aspect of human being tries to release in the form of freedom and sharing. So we have all these two issues in each and every human being. So as a whole unit, humans will also fight this. So I'm trying to tell you, this is the way things are. So I'm trying to choose the words that do not criminalize the acts of human race. I'm trying to see it as an evolving process, which human race from bad to good and good to another word is not, it could be divine, which our culture accepts, but all of the world has to come to that levels of consciousness. So that's the way I look at things.
I understood, sir. What you're saying is essentially it is an evolutionary process where the human greed and control sometimes takes over. And in this cyclical process, sometimes we go down, but there is enough reason and knowledge right now to use that and see the reason and come back to a healthy life. Fantastic. But it's paradoxical that when science and technology is improving so much, and when these sciences and technologies see that these are not actually useful to the human body, why do they advocate? It is paradoxical. Although you say it is natural, it is evolving. Yes, It is, but then it appears also that with rising
See, science and technology are tools. See, they're only tools that you should understand. They're only tools. Science and technology is not the ultimate thing. They are the tools. It is the human mind, which is beyond science and technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that you need to understand. The interaction of science and technology is as a tool. It is not going to control you. Even if you actually, there is the extension of your question is now that we are going to create future robotics and all that things, but still it is a human creation.
Yeah.
So it falls into the domain of our control only.
Okay, it's back into the human control domain itself.
Absolutely. So
fantastic. I think
so
it closes.
many people are scared of that, but I'm not scared of it, because see, these things are cyclical, and then the wisdom comes up and then tries to put the thing in place. And if you do not do it, something else happens. You know, it's the whole world is just not you. A lot of other parameters come into picture. Yeah. I hope I have answered your question.
No, you
have.
Actually, you have completely answered this. It is cyclical, and then wisdom dawns. And that's the reason our platform is called WiseViews, where we bring in leaders like you to share that wisdom with us. And I'm extremely happy on this auspicious day that we are talking about all these things. Sir, what I'll do now is very quickly, in the interest of time, I will open it for the audience who can ask the question directly. I think there are some people who have typed in the questions. Ramanamurthy, would you like to ask that question?
Thank you for bringing Khadarwali sir. I'm a great fan of him, and we follow Millets. There one specific question, Khadarwali sir.
Yes,
my wife was suffering from diabetes for the last 30 years. So we started Millets for the last 3.5, 4 years. But then we slowly cut down her insulin medication and all other things. Then all of a sudden, again, we have tested last week and sugars went up, sir. So, of course, we did not consult the doctor. Doctor has given us the signal to cut down the insulin levels. But this is my own, our own self decision. So we may be at fault. But how long it takes? She suffers from 30 years, for the last 30 years.
Yeah, if you are on insulin, it may take 1 or 2 years. But then what actually happens is when people start becoming little better, they actually, without their knowledge, as the doctor put it very succinctly, that we are addicted, we slowly get back to our old habits without our knowledge. Even if you do one, either milk or coffee or sugar or rice little bit, your sugars start going up. But because you're eating millets, you will not feel the difference, because millets do keep correcting you on a daily basis. So if you can actually sit back and go back to your basics, again you will. And we have experienced this with many patients. They get well after 6 months, and then they might get 1 coffee per day or 2 biscuits a day, like that, you know. Oh, nothing happens, and nothing happens actually to start.
We need to wait for some longer period of time, sir.
And course correction, and just keep checking, log in all the food that is going to your mouth, and get serious about what you're doing, and get back and keep walking. And many people who are actually had insulin or diabetes for 20-30 years, they would have stopped walking. They don't really walk properly. So walking regularly 1 hour is very important.
Okay. Sir, one more thing, is it millet suitable for IBS, sir?
Oh yes, we have cured thousands of IBS cases. You be on millet porridge, khamir, ambali for 6 to 8 weeks in the first phase.
You always prescribe ambali, that's fermented thing, or?
Yes, fermented porridge is very important for gastric troubles, IBS, Crohn's disease, all these stomach disorders, digestive disorders. Because of the microbial gut microbes being absent, you are getting into these troubles. Yeah.
Thank you, Sudhakar, for giving me this opportunity.
Wonderful, Dr. Ramanamurthy garu. Anybody else would like to ask a question? You can raise your hand. Meanwhile, I will request Professor Prasad to ask one question from the next cluster, and then we'll close it after that, because Dr. Khadar has to leave now. Professor Prasad, one quick question, and then we'll go to audience if they have any.
Yeah, I think, the question is about, as far as those who are cultivating these millets are concerned, the farmers who cultivate these millets, how does it work out for them in terms of the economics? But finally, there has to be some acceptance from their side. How does it work out, sir?
Yeah. The demand and supply. Very simple. See, when you come ask this question, it is again an economic model. So of late, actually, it's not a serious problem because there are so many sick people. Slowly, the demand is increasing. So many millet growers, other way also, they were not having any market to start with. So now they can grow. A farmer who has 5 acres of dry land, when it rains, he grows and he gets 50 quintals. And now each quintal is being paid 25-30 rupees. I mean, 2,500 to 3,000 rupees. So for him, it is everything is free now. I mean, so he is not actually at loss at any point of time because he hardly spends any money to produce this. And he was not getting anything anyway before. So all that he has to do is just to grow. And another good thing with this millets is you can keep it for 3 to 4 years. They don't go bad. You don't need to add any chemicals or anything like that. So if he's not happy with the price, he can just hold it on and he can eat and survive for a year. And then he can sell when the price increases. In fact, brown top millet, when there was not much in supply and when people started finding its wellness, all of a sudden in the last, before Corona, 1 or 2 years, the demand was so high. In fact, it crossed 500 rupees per kilo. But now many people started growing and it has also come down. And see, there are no subsidies, absolutely zero. So it is a true real price. So approximately 100, 150 in that range, all the millets are staying. So people are slowly getting in, and many are finding economic freedom because a farmer who didn't have anything, who had land, but not able to grow because of irrigation not being there. Now every farmer, that's another important aspect. Sociologically, all the farmers who have dry land can also become feeders for the common man. So now everyone comes into the table. So all the defocused farmers have started becoming into focus. And that's how you improve the society. No one is big, no one is small. Because if I have 2 acres, I can grow my food. And I'm also on the table. And that's another important aspect that's actually happening. And we have seen fantastic results in northern Karnataka where farmers were actually committing suicides. Now because of millets and the value that we have created, we have actually created parallel economies. In fact, that's going to be felt in another 5-10 years.
Fantastic.
Excellent, sir. I think this question has brought out so many aspects. I think the entire geography from where this question is coming is very different from many of the other geographies. And you have talked about, how it is no longer a marginal land holding, and then, something can be done about that. You also highlighted the price as well as the storage value aspects of what you're saying. Excellent, sir. Excellent. Thank you very much. Professor Sudhakar Rao.
Yes. One short answer question, sir. What is your advice to the government?
No
what
advice.
Is your advice?
No advice.
No advice. I'll now take the question from Dr. Lakshman, who has joined from the US. Dr. Lakshman,
no, if you insist, I will advise to create a ministry for non-irrigated farming communities in India, which is absolutely out of focus. I mean, I cannot believe that the government has not seen this simple issue, that there are 60% of farmers still dependent on rain, and we don't have a ministry for that.
Excellent. I think the overriding focus that is required and the surprise that the government has not actually seen this need is highlighted by you. Fantastic, sir. That is noted. I request Dr. Lakshman to raise his question now quickly.
Hi, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Keep it short.
Sir, it's yeah. Sir, Yeah, I'm a great fan of you, sir. I'm continuing my thoughts, sir. Sir, there are three people who are fantastic in the society in India. You and Veeramacharan Ramakrishna and Mantri Satyanarayana Raju. These three people are providing unconditional, support to the humanity, what they trust on, and gaining nothing in return. But you have a fantastic, guts to communicate to the society and what you are intending to.
My point. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
So,
we need
sir,
to close
my
the
question
session.
is, sir, my question is, people these days becoming so intelligent, they're listening to you three guys and preparing their own diet, and they're preparing their own diet because everybody trusting you three people. So they are so confused, and they are prepared. They prepared their own diet and they are following it. So, and people are not such intelligent. They cannot imagine like blood is flowing into the glucose is flowing into the blood slowly, and they cannot imagine it. But in Indian studies, 90% of the people cannot understand the human system, digestive system, how it works. So people are confused. They are following just for 1 week, even though they have problems, and they are not following it later on. So because of this lack of educational thing. Okay, so here I have two questions, sir. One is, so there people are preparing their own diet, and what can you suggest to those kind of people? And the other one is, how can you suggest to the government, or you said you are not suggesting anything government, and what can you suggest to the people, who doesn't have this education and knowledge, so this leads to they cannot follow the things better.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll answer your question in two levels, though short answer. One, people who are not educated and have no knowledge are very easy to get convinced, because when they listen to my lectures, they understand it in a simple fashion and they follow it and they don't have any problems. It is this so-called half-educated people, as you clearly pointed out, that happens, and they will find out by experiments, and slowly and steadily they will also turn to which gives them the good results. So that is the second answer. And government, see, this is a problem for all of us, because government doesn't function on common man needs. It functions by their needs of winning the next election. So there's a different parameter that is set in. So we are talking about people, individual people suffering, doing this. So don't bring in government, which is a parameter which does not work in this domain. So that is the reason why I ask or not ask government. And this is our business. It is your kitchen is your business. So though they have spread their tentacles on all aspects of our existence, but then it is for you to release those tentacles of government and take control of your kitchen, your food, your plate, what goes into your mouth, what. So this is where you need to exercise your right and wisdom, and you need to separate. You cannot ask government to come and do these things. So you need to do it. So you need to know what to do, what not to do. And it takes some time. This is something, the awareness and everything has to sink in. You see, the big corporate companies took more than 100 years to do what they did. So they're experiencing their fruits of their work from the last 100 years with all their mighty advertisements, media control, all these things put together. Now they're actually reaping their benefits in the last 10, 15 years. So it is not that easy. And so for a different concept, different paradigm shift, as the person put it very aptly, it takes time and we need to have patience. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic, sir. Thank you, Dr. Lakshman, for asking that very good question. Sir, we will have to close it here as requested by the speaker. Sir, thank you very much. We actually cannot thank you enough for this wonderful session. So knowledgeable, so useful, and yet it's not complete. It's not complete in the sense that the time is not sufficient. So we will come back to you and request you for another session, an add-on session, which we will title it slightly differently and focus on the aspects which are not covered in this session. So I will come back and I will talk to you and request you. But on behalf of everyone here, on behalf of the entire team at ICFAI and all the participants who joined from Middle East, the US, and various diverse states in this country itself with their requirements, with their questions and confusions, I'm sure they all are benefited. We all together, thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful time and patience with which you have answered, and great clarity in your thinking. I wish you wonderful success in the research, and also we will do our bit in proliferating, propagating the success stories and the experiments that you are conducting. You have already put Karnataka as #1 producer of millets in this world, and those good habits that you are actually demonstrating as a leader yourself, you are actually doing in that 8-acre plot in your backyard. That is how leaders do, and such a leader we are very fortunate to have with us this evening. We will keep following you, and we will try our bit as an education institution to take this forward, sir. Thank you so much. And
thank you very much for having me, and it's a wonderful session, and I love you all, guys, and we'll meet again.
We love you, sir. Good night. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a wonderful session talking to the most popular Dr. Khadar Valli Garu. And Dr. Khadar Valli has given us such a fantastic educative session on how we can look at alternative foods, because that is how our human physiology is based on to accept and get adjusted to without any diseases. And therefore, all these efforts are based on moving towards a very healthy society. It is quite pertinent, quite fundamental in the busy schedules that we have because of work and life and other emotional aspects. We tend to actually not focus on this very, very fundamental aspect. Dr. Khadar Valli has told us the carbohydrates over fiber content and the ratios in each and every millet and each and every food item. And that has given us a very, very strong indication as to how we reduce the carbohydrates and increase the content of fiber in whatever we consume as a broad guideline. Protein as a guideline is not good for, because protein is dangerous to kidneys and it will lead to chronic kidney disease. Milk does a lot of harm in terms of not just not being able to digest in the human digestive tract, but also causes autoimmune diseases. They're pretty serious. The steroids that we are getting through the milk, because the milk is taken from those cows had genetically modified products, and therefore we are consuming it directly through milk, and therefore we are conditioned to go for milk, and therefore our disease pattern, disease profile is largely skewed towards these deadly diseases. I think this session has not only awakened us and alerted us to make right choices of food, but it has also allowed us to look at things with greater reason. I think to change some culture like food from what has been there for several thousands of years into which is actually not suitable, like rice, sugarcane, or wheat, is something phenomenal that has happened. I think another phenomenal thing will have to happen now with the help of all of us working in tandem to save the human race and also maintain a very healthy society, so that we focus on productive aspects and our contribution to human aspiration, success, and making our lives meaningful will be much, much more than what it is currently. Because we started the session with what Dr. Khadar Valli has said, that 80 to 90% or almost all the human race is sick. I mean, that is where it has begun, and that is where every day it has to strike us so that we choose right kinds of foods. And there is a solution, there is an advice, and I'll try to share those PDFs and the material shared by Dr. Khadar Valli with all of you. We have all your email IDs and contacts, and it will be shared from our ICFAI online team, and I'm sure it will be definitely useful to you. As ever, and as mentioned by Dr. Khadar Valli, knowledge is to share and not to patent, and that's what ICFAI believes. And therefore, these WiseViews sessions, with your help, we have conducted 48 sessions so far, almost one full year, and we have we feel that it has just started yesterday. We feel that it has just started recently. We are not tired. Every holiday is converted into a learning session with your support joining on today as well, in spite of the holiday. Please continue to join us. We will see you next Friday at 7:30 p.m. We are going to talk to very distinct leaders from a very different world. They are Kung Fu nuns. These are the people who are building an equitable society, gender equality, empowered women, and how to defend themselves from various practices that are prevalent in our society, and how to be ready to face the world. These are some of the things that they epitomize, and we are going to talk to Kung Fu nuns next Friday, March 25th at 7:30 p.m. We request all of you to join at that time. We'll be very happy to interact with you and make you converse with the leaders who are going to be present. So thank you all. Have a good evening and do take care of yourself till we meet again on March 25th. Good night.